or something like that to be able to spend on even social media. But it is about strategic approaches. And look, even in our industry, when we do events and you want media to cover things or bloggers to cover things, it's no different. You might have a product that in your store that you've created, or you might own a retail store. What you want is noise. You want people talking about your product online, and the best way to do it is to give an element of it away in return for something that benefits your business. So not just to give it away for the sake of giving it away. If we're going to go out to bloggers and say, you've got a following of however many thousands of people, what if we give you some tickets for A, you to come, but B, for your listeners to come, so that they get that interaction with you. You can do something that's a brand activation, something that integrates them with your brand, but also gives them the benefit of winning something which helps our brand. Then it's a win-win all around. Retailers, a lot of the time you'll find, and the new mums market's really good at this, where they'll go out and they'll go to mum bloggers and give them products to trial and test and to give away for new mums to win, because they know it brings in, everyone tags and shares, and all of a sudden there's all this new traffic that they're acquiring because they just say like, share, 25 words or less, save it, and all of a sudden you've got 2,000 new people on your page that you're interacting with.
And it's all feedback, isn't it? It's getting feedback
Absolutely.
On what you're doing.
But it's even the opportunity to win.
Yes.
The idea of, like, I may be this person to win this new pram. Or if you've got a clothing shop and you go onto social media, onto relevant pages and say, right, we want 5 girls that are going to come in and going to model our clothes. And you have to say what you like about it and share it. Everyone likes to, hear or, read things about themselves, or have all that information. So they go out and they share it with their friends, and all of a sudden, organically, you've got new people that are liking and interacting with your page, or potentially new customers that might lead to new sales, which will eventually get you to a place where you'll have money to put into social media budgets and things.
Yeah. So marketing, it's being creative.
Yeah, creative and strategic. And someone once said to me, it's easy to make money with lots of money. Right? You have $2 million for your marketing fund, you've got $5 million for accountants and law. It's easy to build a business with a lot of money. It's also easy to make a lot of mistakes and lose it, because I'm a firm believer in easy come, easy go.
Yes.
But it's very hard to build a business from the ground up with nothing. And some of the most successful businesses in the world
have done that.
They've done that, but it's just we're in an instant gratification era where people want it. They start yesterday and they're like, I'm a week in, how come I haven't made the Forbes 100 top, And it doesn't work that way. And it's that rapport building, and it takes time and trust.
Definite trust. And honesty, being honest and upfront with people. And it is developing that rapport.
And a bit of luck. Sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time. There just are, I just came back from judging the Osmopreneur Awards, and there are definitely some stories where there were businesses that were doing really well and tracking well, and then would have something that happened or an interaction with someone by accident that they may not have even realized at the time, and because of their level of service or the quality of their product, propelled them from a certain place financially to a whole other, different space. And even in those situations, you still have to have the systems in place to be able to keep up with the demand or the supply. Otherwise, you all of a sudden get propelled into an area and you crash.
Yes. So with the Osmopreneur area, and you were a judge there, so what segments were you judging?
So I had 3, I have to remember now. So I was doing the Handmade Award, there was the Retail Award, and there was the the social difference and impacts in that area award as well that I was looking after.
Okay. And what sort of things were you looking for in businesses that had entered the, I suppose it's a competition, isn't it?
It is to a degree.
Or an award?
So the Osmopreneur Awards is a business award that's for mums, and there are obviously a lot of single mums that are in those categories as well. Mine were very different. So the Handmade Award is an interesting one because it's usually artists or designers of some capacity, which means their brand is reliant on them as an independent, which sometimes means if they, like when you talk about the ability to scale, a lot of them are highly protective of their craft, don't want to teach other people, and even when we sort of engage in interactions, that craft is an extension of who they very much are. But then when you say to them, so if tomorrow you got hit by a bus,
what happens to your
business over?
Yes.
So it's that ability to, in that area, looking at who's actually willing to scale or to grow, or what strategies they've put in place to allow for levels of expansion. Otherwise, their financials are never going to get further than where they are.
No. Which
some people are fine with. But I guess, and there are 3 judges for every one set, and, my focus, I often get referred to as like a Shark Tank judge, because my focus is on the scalability and the financials, and looking at, intertwined into that is their passion for wanting to do it, and because it's still a business award. And there are mums that were there sitting there with 6-week-old babies strapped to them. Like, really? They were just incredible.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, isn't it, what mums and single mums can do these days, the creativity and the abilities that they have. But as you say, you need to be able to create a business that you can exit at some stage down the track, and somebody else can step in and either take it over and run it, or you can be overseeing the business while you've got other people in there running it for you.
It's just interesting when you start to probe and ask people questions, and you'll ask them, even in the retail sector, you'll ask them where they are and where they're sitting and where they want to be. And most of the time, they say, I want to be this next big brand, or I want to be this next big thing. And then the minute you ask them what they're going to do next, their plan is to open up another retail shop and to increase overheads, but they're not even online yet.
Yes.
So it's just very interesting with, individuals' positionings or where they're located. And sometimes, again, it's just they've totally dominated their local area market. And that's made them very successful in that specific area. So it might be, having a business in Geelong or Ballarat and being very successful there. But if you stuck them in the middle of Melbourne, would anyone walk in?
They probably wouldn't know they even existed unless you created a profile for yourself down the track. I mean, and that would be all in your marketing. And how would you do that?
And that's that scalability question, and saying, and that's their, like a default position. I would open another store, or I would open another store in a totally different state. And look, it may very well be exceptionally successful, because they may do some, email marketing that may tell them there's a demographic or an audience that would buy from them. I look at scalability as in two, I guess in several ways. One is how long it takes them to get from where they are to where they want to go, and the speed, and that comes down to planning or potentially other investors. With the making a difference or the social impact, that was completely different. I didn't look at I looked at scalability from an impact perspective, but not from a financial perspective, because a lot of them were non-for-profit based.
Yes.
I think it's interesting. I think sometimes we can get lost in the space where we're thinking we're making a bigger impact than we are, and we have to be really careful as judges and judge on what we're presented with. But some of the stories you're presented with are so mind-blowingly incredible, and because I come from, let's say, a business brain, and I watched my mum run a charity, then my mind will sort of start thinking, oh gosh, I wish I could say this to them, because if they just went this direction, I just feel like that would just
change the whole thing.
And that's not my job in those instances, but I certainly do, where possible, will turn around to them and say, look, I'd like to connect with you afterwards and have a chat with you once everything's said and done and the winners are all announced, so there's no issues there. But I feel really privileged to be part of the Osmopreneur Awards. I think there are some absolutely incredible women, and as I say, alongside that, a lot of those women, yes, there are some single mums that are there, but there are also a lot of married women whose partners or husbands champion them, and
yes,
it's really beautiful to hear those stories too, and to hear those women talk about how they just, and how grateful they are and how they couldn't be there. And at the gala awards, there were, again, husbands there that were holding on to newborn babies while mums were getting awards, and it's really lovely to have that acknowledgement as well, and to hear these women say, I actually couldn't raise the 4 or 6 children that I have if it wasn't for this individual supporting me and letting me go out to do this, because I'm absent this many times of the year, and they step in and do it.
Yeah. So it's all about that support, isn't it? Regardless of whether you're you're a single mum or not, you still need to have that support to be able to do the things that you need to do to build the business and create whatever it is that you want to create and see the future.
And I think women are very, that we, overanalyze and very much fill ourselves with doubt. And it's nice to have someone that's your raving fan that
Yes.
says, you're being crazy. Like, you can absolutely do this.
Yes.
You've got this. You could do this with your eyes closed. You don't have to think. And I think we were sort of having an offline discussion when I was saying to you, even just recruiting men and women. We'd have a role, and a man would walk in and dictate a salary and would not budge because he knew what his value was, what his worth was, what he brought. And I'd have women that would come in that would be even more qualified and would talk themselves 30,000 down in salary before the interview was even over, without saying anything, purely because they would get anxious through the interview that they might not get the role and they really wanted it, which was great for passion, but they would dilute their own value by being willing to take such a cut just to get their foot in the door.
Would you ever say anything to them in the interview about that?
As part of feedback, whether or not we would engage that particular person or not, we would go back to them and just say, we want you to know that this is how incredible you are, and whilst you weren't successful for this role for whatever reason, and it would never be because of financial, because it would only be an asset to the place, but don't do that. Like, you are worth 80k, 100k, 150, whatever that salary was. You're worth that amount. Don't dilute down. Don't feel you need to set a precedent for saying, I'm not worth more.
Why, as women, do we do that? I know that there are some women that have broken the glass ceiling, but as women, we always have that doubt about valuing ourselves to be worth more than men. Doing the same thing.
Yeah, and look, it's not to say that there aren't some men out there that do it, but women definitely are willing to accept less. And I do think there's a feeling with almost needing to prove yourself that's there, and or there might be a role that feels like your dream job, and you feel that to get it you have to drop all the way down. And there are women that will stand their ground and say, this is what I'm worth. And even at the Osmopreneur Awards, I was saying, like, know your worth. If you know what value you bring to a company, talk to that point. When you're talking to a recruiter or the HR team or an executive or even to a client, back yourself. Be 300% confident. Know what you bring, know what you've done, know what you can deliver, and don't apologize for it.
No, never apologize. If you have the ability, the capabilities of providing or doing, and know that you do, why allow that self-doubt to come in?
No, and look, even when I deal with contracts or clients, I don't win everything. I don't get everybody across the board. I go in and I say, this is what I can do. I know I can do this. This is what my LinkedIn profile talks about over 40 different directors around the world, but I might not be a fit for you, and that's okay. But I know what I bring, and I know what I can do. And the other sentiment with that is, if you know there's something you can't, if there's a weakness or something you don't deliver on, own that as well, because that's equally as powerful.
Absolutely.
And don't make your weakness that you're work too long or you're always on time. Sometimes people say, so what is a weakness? Like, actually really think about what's something that isn't a strength that you could grow more and be open to developing more and learning more.
So what would you say, if you could mention any weaknesses that you've experienced from people that you've interviewed that they've not said?
Well, I can tell you from when I interviewed with Delaware, I was exceptional at events and marketing. I knew that about myself. I couldn't read a P&L to save my life.
And what's a P&L?
A profit and loss sheet. Maths was not my strong set. I was useless at it at school. I just couldn't get I'm too creative. So I used to, algebra, X and Y, and I'd name them Peter and Paul, and they went to the market. I used to drive my dad bananas. He was just like, what are you doing? Because my mind could not go into that space. I couldn't work. So when I got through all the interviews with Delaware and got to the end, and they handed me this document that was like 40 pages long and asked me to, come back in the first 5 pages and say where the mistakes were. And I wasn't going to lie. I just said, there's absolutely no way. I have no idea what that says. That could be in a totally different language. But if you want to make sure your marketing is in this space and your events increase tenfold, I can do that. I'd have to learn. I'm happy to learn, but I have no idea what this document was. And as a result, they put me through training to teach me how to do it. And now I can without a problem. But, you know,
How fantastic is that?
yeah, it was but sometimes people are willing to bow out of trying for something because they're like, I don't meet that criteria. But if your other areas are strong and you back yourself, and the role was a marketing and events role. It was not an accounting role. So for me, and yes, those things are important because you get given budgets and finances and things like that. But that wasn't my core strength, and I needed to learn to work with it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to